Tell me something. Do you want a free skateboard? Me and Glider Skateboards are teaming up to give one of you guys a free skateboard. If you're interested, watch to the end of the video. This is the Nyjah Huston Free 2. It's $95 retail, and today we're gonna find out whether or not this shoe is actually worth the $95 price tag. I skated the first version of these shoes, and I actually really enjoyed them. So when I got these shoes, I saw that they kept the same outsole. So with the same shape of outsole, I was hoping that the upper would kind of follow the same pattern as the first Nyjah Frees. And honestly, I saw all of this ventilation that they put in and around the shoe, and right off the bat I was a little skeptical that these were gonna skate anything like the Nyjah Free 1. Evidently, a lot of people complained that their feet would get too hot in the Nyjah Free 1. I think it has something to do with this material that they use for the upper. It's a rubber material, so I guess some people felt like it was trapping the sweat inside their shoes and that their feet couldn't breathe. But because of that, they changed the upper and completely redesigned it to include these panels with ventilation. Now, despite the fact that this looks a lot different than the Nyjah Free 1, especially the colorways that aren't solid colors, like I got the solid black, so it looks similar to the first one, but the ones that have the different color panels, it looks like a completely different shoe than the Nyjah Free 1. But I do feel like when I put the shoes on, it felt really similar to the first version. Now, the first thing that I noticed about these shoes is you can see how chunky this heel is. They do feel kind of like an athletic shoe. So Nyjah said that he wanted to design a shoe that you could wear around like casually and go to the gym, but it was a skate shoe, but a skate shoe that you could use for pretty much anything in life. As far as like that category of the purpose of the shoe to make like an all-around skater shoe that a skater can do anything in, I think he nailed it, because this shoe feels good. I've gone to the gym and lifted weights in this shoe. I've played basketball in this shoe. Like, it just feels like a very solid athletic shoe outside of just skateboarding. So that kind of explains why there's such a chunky heel on the Nyjah Free 2. As well, Nyjah skates the gnarliest stuff, so it would make sense that he would want a really thick outsole to protect his feet when he's skating like 40 stair handrails. Like, can you imagine hopping on a handrail at all, but then hopping on a 40 stair handrail, flying down to the bottom, and then bailing? What kind of impact that puts on your feet? It's no wonder why this guy chose such a thick outsole. So when I did put these on, I did feel like I lost a little bit of board control. I was switching from the Jamie Foy 306Ls, which is a slip-on shoe, vulcanized, which has more board feel than most slip-on shoes, which is saying something. So I went from basically skating a sock to skating this. So it did feel a little bit bulky at first, but personally, I like a little bit of a bulkier shoe. After a couple sessions, you get used to skating with a little bit less board feel, and then with the added impact protection and just overall foot stability, it gives you confidence to try stuff that maybe you wouldn't have tried otherwise, whether it be, you know, jumping or a different ledge trick. It makes you feel more safe in uncomfortable situations, which I think allows you to push your skating. So although this heel may seem a little bit chunky, I think it's worth giving it a shot, because I do feel like skating these shoes did help with me progressing my skating. Now, a lot of people are like hardcore suede fans. They need to have a suede shoe. If it's not a suede shoe, they're just not gonna skate it. Personally, I'm not so picky, but I did notice that this rubber is way more durable than your typical suede. I'm personally a huge fan of this material, and I think that other companies should figure out how to replicate a similar type of thin rubber upper that is stronger than leather but doesn't ruin the board feel. And I feel like Nike nailed it with this material. The one thing I didn't like though with the Nyjah Free 1s and with the Nyjah Free 2s is you can see along here it starts to kind of like bubble, and honestly every shoe does that, and maybe I'm being a little like hypercritical because this is a new material, but I noticed that it would get really wrinkly with the Nyjah Free 1s, and you get that same kind of like wave bump effect on the Nyjah Free 2s, which is not my favorite to look at, but obviously it doesn't really impact how you skate the shoe. It's just kind of an aesthetic thing. And let's be honest, after you skate a shoe for like a week, it doesn't matter how it looked to begin with, it looks completely different after you've actually skated it. So I feel like that's not really the biggest deal, but it is something that I did notice. And if they could figure out a way to make it feel a little bit like less wavy and bumpy like this, I think it would keep the shoes looking fresher longer. Now, one thing that I thought was a little bit strange about this shoe is this lace pattern. So over here you can see how they laced the shoe underneath the upper, which I thought was really smart. But then as you travel up the shoe, they have these lace loops that are on the outside. So for some reason they decided to protect the laces here but not here. Honestly, I think it would have looked more simple and more clean if they would have just kept it all underneath rather than doing half covered and then half exposed. Not only would it have looked cleaner, but also I did end up ripping these little loops that hold the laces in place. So you can see my laces look super janky. However, to their credit though, if you look at the lace, as it ripped, it kind of caught itself and I never had to repair the laces. It just looked kind of funky, which happens with skate shoes. I do have to give them props for the fact that I didn't have to replace the lace, but at the same time, it's like, why didn't you just put them all underneath? That way I wouldn't break any laces to begin with. Now, I feel like the two most vulnerable areas of the shoe are obviously the flicking point, which for me is the most vulnerable area with every shoe that I skate, but then also this outsole right here and the same spot on my pushing foot to a much greater extent. Those are kind of the hot spots that wear out for me, and this shoe is no exception. I did notice that this triangle pattern isn't like the most durable, but I do have to say it is grippy. That is, it's grippy to your board, but it is a little bit slippery on skate park concrete. At least the park that I skate is slippery, and this tread pattern was kind of slippery to begin with and just got more slippery as time went on. However, as far as gripping to the board itself, I feel like this tread pattern worked really, really well. Durability wise, I think these held up great. Even as I skated them, you can see that it started to wear down, but these kind of flaps that are hanging on here were still intact enough that if I'd wanted to, I could have shoe gooed this a couple weeks in or probably like 3 weeks in and kept the shoe lasting a lot longer. So if you're somebody that's looking for a really durable shoe, I would definitely recommend these, because if you want to shoe goo them, you can make these last probably like 2 to 3 times longer than regular shoes. So the upper is extremely solid, but still the thing that gives out first for me is the outsole. And again, if I was a kid, I would probably be skating these until there was like an actual hole all the way through them. So I do think that these definitely have like the ability to squeeze more life out of them, but towards the end, the outsole was just feeling so thin that it wasn't really giving me the benefits that I wanted out of the Nyjah 2 to begin with. Now, as far as like flicking kickflip, I do feel like this toe cap is like, it looks kind of pointy, but it is a little bit bigger just because the outsole is a bit chunkier, so you can't feel your kickflips quite as well. However, I noticed that I was kickflipping really well with this shoe right out of the gate. I just couldn't like feel them as well. So the kickflips were happening fine. It's just with the thicker shoe, sometimes you don't feel as in control, and that's something that you can just get used to with time. Now, as far as the heel flips, I think these are the best heel flipping shoe ever. Leave it in the comments below what shoe you think has the best heel flips. But this big chunky heel literally like does your heel flips for you. Like, I went from skating the Jamie Foy 306Ls and just struggling so hard with my heel flip, and literally day one I put these on and I could heel flip perfectly. So this big heel is kind of like a cheat for doing your heel flips if you're somebody that struggles. Obviously, skating any cup sole is really going to make heel flips a lot easier and a lot more effortless, but particularly this shoe, something about the shape of it and the bulkiness of this heel compared to the slimness of the forefoot, something about it, heel flips just felt immaculate the entire time. Overall, I would have to say that this shoe is a 9 out of 10. I mean, this shoe does exactly what a skateboard shoe should do. It lasts a long time, it breaks in super easy, it's got solid flick, you don't need to replace the laces. You can say what you want about like the aesthetic of the shoe, whether or not you vibe with like this athletic looking shoe or not, but at the end of the day, I don't think anybody can argue that this is a bad skate shoe. I think Nyjah along with Nike have teamed up to make an incredible shoe. Honestly, I'm stoked to see what they come out with the Nike Free 3, or maybe it won't be a free, maybe it'll be some other kind of shoe. Leave it in the comments below what you think the Nike Free 3 or the Nike Nyjah 3 is going to look like. But Nyjah said that when they came out with the Nike Nyjah 1, he only skated it for like 6 months before they started sending him samples for this shoe. So odds are this shoe has been out a while, while. He's probably already testing samples for the Nyjah 3, and I think probably within the next year or so we can probably expect another Nike Nyjah to drop. Anyways guys, I hope that was informative for you. These shoes are $95. You can get them at pretty much any online skate shop, your local skate shop if they carry Nike. They are a little bit on the pricier side. However, I do feel like this shoe makes every single dollar count, especially if you're willing to super glue or shoe glue or hot glue the toe cap. You can get a lot of life out of these shoes. So I definitely highly recommend the Nyjah Free 2. Now for those of you that are interested in winning this glider skateboard, it's really simple. All you've got to do is just subscribe to my channel, follow me at the local Joe on Instagram as well as Glider Skateboards, and then just comment Twin Tail. I'll be picking the winner at the end of the week and I'll announce it in the first video of next week. I'm actually gonna set this board up and go skate it today, but thank you guys so much for watching, for subscribing, liking. The channel is growing like crazy. You guys are the best. Remember to make every single day a Friday, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.